Yeah, so we are Labodoble, Alex Morales, and Georgi Bagdasarov. It's me. And yeah, like we mostly focused as a duo and also in our solo works. Mostly focused on working with the film and different aspects of it, exploring its as a medium and in many sense. And actually, we actually don't do much solo work since we start Labodoble.
That's
That's
true.
yeah, it says so in our solo work, but actually there are no solo work in the past 14
11,
years almost.
11 now. Like we,
Labodoble, yeah,
yeah,
officially Labodoble, yes, officially 2013, but we actually started to work together in 2010. First performance we did together 2010, yes, and yeah, before that we actually did some solo works, but like since 2013, it's only
yeah.
Labodoble work.
Actually, I met you as a musician or performer rather than filmmaker, and I was more into visual.
Yeah,
And the first performance we did uh, was him on turntable and some prepared instruments, and I was operating a small moviola and making a similar gesture, but not with a turntable, but with moviola. There is this uh, turning movement, and it was very easy and very instantaneous idea about this
yeah, it
performance
was a bit
because
like I think like over like during the one evening.
yeah, because we were invited, I think, to Bratislava to
No, it was in Tabor.
ah yeah, to an cultural center in Tabor, and we wanted to make something together so we can travel together, and we get paid for uh, for the transport. So yes, and before I made some films. I entered very early after high school. I entered the film and television faculty FAMU in Prague, and uh, I was interested in working with film. And there was not an ideological or aesthetic decision at that point, but my grandfather he had a big collection of family movies, and there were some instruments left, and I wasn't aware um, of the technological progress, let's say. I thought it's a camera, and I was not problematizing whether it's a modern camera or ancient camera. It was camera for me, and I I spent some time to find Super 8 cartridges in Prague, but it was still possible. So I acquired cartridges, and I started to use my grandfather's camera and doing some very um, instantaneous work, some diary shooting, and it was even before entering the faculty. And when I entered the faculty, I was confronted with the let's say market reality, and I was told that it's obsolete, that it's not like working medium for artists anymore, and I was surprised. But I kept it, but I passed from Super 8 to Double 8 because it was cheaper and the cameras were accessible as well. And yeah, I would say all my memories about FAMO are really connected with this clash um, about the technological question. I'm using some obsolete medium, and it poses problems to the teachers and to the distribution and like a lot of issues like that. But it was then that we met in the faculty because Georgi was a PhD student and I was like a bachelor student, and he was also teaching, and he had some course on avant-garde, Japanese avant-garde, and Russian avant-garde, and it happened that I consulted with him one of my films, and that was the meeting.
Yeah, but it was like quite funny because the very beginning we worked in the different approaches because Alex mostly been working with the Super 8 and double 8 formats, and I was at that time mostly already on a 16, and we had this discussion for quite a time because like two different mediums present in the under the same roof, let's say. And Alex said like, yeah, because the Super 8 camera is much more lighter, and you're bigger, so you can hold 60 millimeter camera. So that was pretty for quite time in the beginning, and then actually one moment you try to force this. Then when you did the first 16 millimeter, not like the school actually, but your film when you did 60 millimeter film, because until that moment we still had this. You said like the camera corresponds to my body, because and your camera corresponds to your body. So that was actually like, yeah, it's interesting moment of the while you're using Super 8 back then also, because like when the camera was already available, 60 millimeter camera, but I remember like for quite a time you kind of
Yeah, it was also more expensive, and with the Super 8 or double 8 cameras, I could grab two cameras in my backpack and use two cameras on set. And then there was some shooting that I was doing with another Czech filmmaker. We wanted to make some kind of like shooting dialogue, and I was carrying two Super 8 cameras and one 16 millimeter. But it was really like it's very material question because the 16 camera that I had was a Krasnogorsk, and it's really like another object than Bolex camera. So it was really heavy for me. It was not so gentle the mechanics, and it was like my father's camera actually. He used it when he studied like the same school 20 years earlier, and he gave it to me, but never really used it because it was so big, and it's a bit like a tank or yeah. And then I somehow skipped Krasnogorsk, and then I borrowed some Bolex camera at FAMU, and uh, I did some shooting, and also my graduate film on 16, and there was another kind of work because um, the Super 8 cameras were very portable, very or Super 8, double 8, doesn't matter.
And we were talking about that you use different formats and different camera. That is also very physical.
Mm.
And then even though you encounter this camera or material from your family, and then but you keep doing it, so means that might be something you really drawn into this material, like a photochemistry process or this film media. And could you both share a little bit what make you so interested in working with this medium?
Well, because yeah, with me it was because like, yeah, like Alex said, I'm a bit older. So no, because I started to this around 2001, I think it was, so almost 23 years ago. And for me, uh 60 millimeter, instead of 60 millimeter, was more accessible in a way that back then, let's say like dealing with the digital video, like there was this mini DV cameras or something like that, and it's actually was too complicated because first of all, was expensive. Camera was expensive. Second thing, like you need to have a pretty powerful computer to record it, or to be dependent on a somewhat place where you can do this and pay for just bringing from this tape to the computer, and then in the computer for editing. So actually you need the devices which were quite expensive to do this work. And the problem also because actually I did like the both, and before also I experimented with the VHS. But the thing was that, I mean, like, not like there was only a thing was like expensive, but in the end, when you, for example, when you grabbed your footage in a computer, then there was like less possibilities what you could do. You could just edit. You could actually and for me at that moment was actually much more interesting to experiment with the image, and I found that this bit too heavy, let's say, like even mentally, to learn the tools, all these tools. I mean, I learned, and then in the end, actually, pretty much limitation what I can do with this. So I was not much interested into making like the narrative films, and this medium was for me like mostly for narrative, where you're actually just cutting the things, cutting the scenes together. And if you want to like interact with the image, if you want to transform the image, I mean, like, there were a couple effects and looked like a pretty cheesy. While with the film, it was like really easy. Actually, I didn't need to have the knowledges. I remember just like being buying on the flea market expired film stock, 60 millimeter expired film stock, because there was no 8 millimeter expired. I don't remember why. And like the very first experience was like pretty simple, because a friend of mine had a 60 millimeter projector, but there was no camera and it was just a stock. And it was like really easy, just using this very simple camera-less things with the stock, and using the chemicals, using like the scratching and sounds actually like very. And for this, you don't need, like, at least, I mean, I was younger, I was maybe lazy to learn, but I don't know, it was like easy. You just take this and in a very art brute way, just explore the material without diving into documentation of the software, documentation of the camera, and all this, like, thing. And you just spend like weeks reading this, and then in the end, you just only can edit the things. While here, you just like very, like, in a really art brute way, that you just don't think, you just take it and just like doing it. Because back then I didn't know much about experimental cinema. I think I saw only my Darren works, and like some stuff like from the 20s, like this is the beginning of the avant-garde, like French avant-garde and so on. But actually, I remember I wasn't aware of the, like the landline, the people who actually did this camera-less thing called McLaren. So actually, for me, like, this first introduction was just through this kind of laziness of reading of the documentation for digital, and the second thing, like this freedom that you just sit at home, you have this stock on your kitchen table, and then you just think, look around, what I can do with this, what I can put on this, like in this very naive, as a kids, when they play, just exploring what you can do more with this. So that actually how it started. And then I bought a Krasnogor's camera, which was for 60 million. And with this camera, the guy who sold was from his father, and he also sold me. I still have these cans, uh, kind of like the 8 cans of the film stock. This was like, yeah, it was like 2 times 300 meters in a cans. Actually, a lot of film stock. And then when I had the camera, I said, okay, then I will try to shoot with this and develop with it. But that was like total disaster, because I didn't know. I think that was already 2002, maybe. Uh, yeah, like around that time, I think. It was like total disaster, because I knew before, because like when I was a kid with my cousin, he uh, showed me how to develop photography, and he had enlarger, and sometimes like that was pretty adventurous, sitting in the darkness with my cousin. He was older, and doing these things. So actually, I just like had an idea that you just take a liquid, pour inside, and wash, and then put the second liquid, and then you dry, then you put it in larger. So actually, I said, okay, it's the same thing. So I just went to the photographic shop and bought a developer and the fixer, and I tried to do the same way, just like with the camera film, and I didn't have a tank or something like that. So I said, okay, like it's like photography. So I put like the red light, like just in a very naive way, and just did all these things in the bedroom, and there was nothing, because first of all, the stock it was the Svema reversal stock, and I tried to do like the black and white process, like negative process. The first thing. Second thing was like when that now it was like total stupidness, that because I remember the steps from my childhood. Like you put the developer, you keep it for some time, then wash, you put the fixer, keep it some time. But to keep some time, I didn't count. I just put it, just spend some time just, just doing this in the bucket, then just wash it and so actually there was no like the idea of the temperature and the time, and so actually there was nothing on it, and because it was the reversal stock and this Sema has this uh,
Anti-halo.
anti-halo layer, which actually removed only the bleach step. So that was like really, really, really weird. But the thing was, what actually there was an image on the film. You could look on that. You couldn't project this, but like when you look on the reflection, you still can see. You could see like there is some image, and yeah, and this like was like really inspiring. And then actually like yeah, then I just used like my traditional film destroying techniques on top of it, and so that was actually like that's somehow it started, and maybe because of that actually for uh, my own work, because I'm studying also in the film school, and that was not a issue to do this thing. So actually, my in my own world, doing my own films, not like the films like the exercise for school. I've been doing mostly like these things, and also experimenting a bit with the video, uh, but this was like the film was like really really easy, in a way, than, than the video back then.
Thanks for sharing this part. I think it inspired me. Maybe another series I should collect what most disaster, immature story you have had during your filmmaking process. I think we all have that, and they're all super encouraging. And yeah, great. And then Alex, how about you?
Yeah, I think like the very first um, material that I shot with some was that camera, some double eight camera. I lost it, but I can't remember the reason, and I was so yeah, I was quite desperate about it, and so I went to school, and I haven't studied there yet, but I was attending some seminars and something like before being accepted, and I went to consult with one teacher who was quite influential on few generation of students, and I think I was maybe among the last, and I was describing him my project that was a bit connected with poetry and with the material. I think what really from the beginning and not consciously inspired me was the tangibility of the film and of the tools, because my grandfather left not only uh, like family movies but also a lot of equipment, and I didn't have a clue about how to make it work together, but it really fascinated me. So I I went to the teacher and I asked him about what could have been the problem. And yeah, I don't know, maybe I just opened the camera or something very stupid, and I don't remember. And he encouraged me to make it again and from scratch. He told me that what would switch my attitude, it would be to make the stock myself. So he encouraged me to uh, prepare the emulsion and to coat it on 16 mil and to make it really like from scratch. And I was like, okay, why not? So I went to the shop with photo chemistry and like cameras and so on, and I bought some Foma powder or something really like instantaneous, like to mix your own emulsion. And I went to the flat of my mother's partner, who is photographer, and at the time he was uh, using like analog film. And I told him my project, and that I would like to use his darkroom, and his darkroom was his bathroom, but he had this kind of red light and whatever. So I really mixed the powder with water and all the other ingredients, and I prepared emulsion, and then I found some piece of glass, and I put there the film strips and I coated them. But it was really like I don't know, 5 meters or something, because the glass was not big enough, and I didn't care because I was not aware how what amount of material corresponds to what amount of time. So I was quite satisfied. How to say? I was really happy with what I had done, and I let it dry and put it in some placard, so it would be in darkness. And that part of the project was finished for me. I went home and I was like, okay, I have my stock prepared, and then I will use it with the camera. And but it never happened, because then I think I realized that it's really like very unstable, because it was like all the problems that everybody encounters when coating emulsion, that it was irregular. There was a thick layer of the uh, let's say cream, or emulsion, that's the proper word. And it it was never dry. At some parts it was so the relief was so high that it couldn't be loaded into camera. And I think maybe it was not also well stored, because it was just in some placard. It was not like a darkroom or some light proof container. So I think maybe it's still is in the in this part of furniture. And but I like to think about this memory, because I was really like very naive, and very with a lot of energy to do things. And I thought that that's normal. Like, I don't know, a painter would prepare his canvas, so okay, I will prepare the film stand. That's no problem. And I think he was making fun of me when I think about it. Like, he was really like, maybe I amused him by uh, my naivety. And um,
Great story, actually. Yeah, because you all have that almost like you both have that like a curiosity, but also not so precise in the beginning when you want to just try something, and then that became really amazing memory for your process. And then I was wondering, like, are there, of course, you do a lot of collaboration now in film, but also in performance, and before you have your own individual path. And I was wondering, are there any specific mm, uh, theme or subject or direction that you both want to bring into the creation, or can be from your own individual part?
I would say that I was always interested in found objects and materials, and not in the sense of the um, represented image, like the archives of photographs or diaries, letters. It was actually the material for my first performance that I did individually. We didn't know each other, and but also materials like the medium, like those that I had from my grandfather, or then some friend gave me a video camera, so I was also experimenting with video. And uh, I think that this is something that is still pertinent to our work, like to work with things that we encounter. And the found object could be really on different levels of meaning. And what happens to us lately is that we have very old footage, and our own footage becomes a found object. That there is a gap of 10 or 15 years that we couldn't manage to do something with it. That's our recent project, that we are reworking our um, materials that we shot like 12 years ago. And I think this the inspiration that comes from some material that poses itself like an obstacle almost. That it's something that still drives me personally.
Yeah, I think actually it's pretty often starting with the just direct contact of the device or film, or like you just take it and you just explore it, like in every almost in every, and then actually like that's like then you have your tool, you take this tool and you start to work with this tool, and then actually by certain interaction, because you can have like tons of the ideas, but the tool allows you to do certain limits, and then actually from this interaction you find a way how to do this, and this actually create like the second level, like this response on how I will deal with this tool. And I think this is pretty often, because in many cases what we did together, there wasn't it's never started that we sit and we just put a pen on a paper, and create like the concept, I don't know, synopsis or something like that, and then just rework this, and then at the end you take the camera, or you take like the screwdriver, and start to build something. And actually it's usually starting like it just starting doing this, and then in the process of making film or preparing the performance, all this threads appears, which leads you to different direction, and then actually somehow the idea start to form a bit, like, or like the concept, or I think it's pretty present in many cases. And actually there's this moment also of the limitation which you have, and the limitation in a rather positive sense, let's say, not negative, because like it like limitation protect you, do not fall, somewhere away. Like you can think about limitation as a fence on a rock, let's say. If there is no this limit, so you just fall down from the rock. So this is actually pretty interesting. Then when you reach this kind of like with something which look like a dead end, and then you try to somehow, I don't know, like refract from this, to the other direction, and this actually in a way I think mold the whole uh, project.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, that was what I was thinking about, like this encounter with something material, some object that can be instrument, but also can be some artifact. And like the first performance I did was based on some archive, family archive that was not mine, but it was even not film. It were photographs and letters, and I somehow I was thinking how to put it on screen. So I was using some video cameras and live action under the camera, but the objects were also very present because me and my collaborators were on stage. So it was some kind of laboratory for inquiring into this archive that was found on street. And I think this principle never left me, or I never left this principle. And it also led me to the reflection on what's the gesture of filmmaking, whether it starts uh, with an idea, or if it starts with some images that you have in your mind. For me, it starts most often with some object. And so at some point, I was thinking maybe my filmmaking starts while I'm walking through flea market, because that was the motive for another performance that we bought this moviola, and it was so fantastic. This like small, simple instrument that just let pass the film from one reel to another, and it passes through a little prism with light, and you can see the image, and you can see its stillness and its movement, and the hesitation between stillness and movement. So it really inspired us a lot, because yeah, first I made some short films on my own, and then we did this performance, and then we passed from this moviola to Steinbeck editing table, and starting to play with different prisms, because there are several systems, and the image-rated results from it's a bit different. And I was at some point I was really fascinated by all those tools that were all around in different places, like be it flea market or some old family houses, or it was somehow present almost as garbage, and it called for attention, or at least that was my perception, that as if they were waiting for me.
No, actually, I think like this limitation also was like kind of the thing which defined like or why we started Labodoble also, because we were like in a pretty limited situation of working, because it's happened when we were in when we lived in Argentina, and one moment we understood that we can't work there the same way how we do it here, when you just go to the shop, you buy film stock, you buy a chemistry, you develop it, or if you can't buy it in the shop, you can order online, and you just get it in a couple of weeks. And at the moment when we lived there, it was like one shop with very limited uh, things which you could buy, and also if you wanted to order something online from abroad, it would mean that it would take like 3 months.
And it was also very expensive because
And it was
of
expensive
some
also, yes.
importation.
Yes, and also it could take like 3 months to not to delivery time, but because like there was pretty strict import regulation back then, and actually we were like in this quite limited situation, and when we traveled, just took cameras and the film, and said, okay, there is a say like flea market is everywhere, or we can find like the developing tank or something like that. If not, they can buy on online, and then actually you're in a situation when you're sitting, you have it, and you don't have access to this. You look to this, see this on the screen of your computer, but you can't do this, and that's actually like was the same was like with the chemistry, because you could buy in the photographic shop only the chemistry for black and white negative, and there was no way to buy like the color chemistry, and there was no way to buy chemistry for reversal stock, and so on. There was also different uh, regulations, like the legal regulation, what you can buy and what you can't buy, which was very different from Europe. So, like, if you wanted to mix, so some stuff which I remember, like, I've been thinking about, okay, how I'll do the bleach. Okay, I'll go to the shop with where they sell the cars things, and I will buy the sulfuric acid there, and then I go to the drugstore and I will buy permanganate, because usually that I did here, like when it was not an accident, when I wanted in the pharmacy, and I asked the lady, I mean, do you have a potassium permanganate? And lady looked at me like with like just almost calling the police, and then when I checked the regulations, I found out that it's like, yeah, it's the thing that you can't legally buy. There you need special license, and it's actually like all this limitation actually led us to things to do the thing which actually end up as a Labodoble.
Yeah, but also in Buenos Aires back then, the alternative scene or underground scene was a time of collectives, and it was very strong in this community type of organization. And they were asking, "Who are you?" And he said, "We are Alex and Georgi." No, but who are you? Like you had to found some unity, or you have to be something. So it was for purposes of one workshop that we were asked and we wanted to do, that we invented this a bit, I don't know, also a bit silly moniker, like Labodoble, and it stayed with us. And it was really just for them to put it on the poster, so it
Yeah, but also it's defined
sounds
because like we had yeah we've been preparing for the workshop, and then because they ask us like because it was like this scene, artistic scene, and they ask us if we can do developing workshop. We said yes, sure, that we do, and we also did these workshops back in Europe, and we fixed the date, and it was like I think like kind of like month in advance, a month and a half in advance, and then
because we were still testing the
no, it was before testing, and then actually when the workshop was fixed, And I said, okay, I mean, now I have a problem that we don't have facility to do our own works, but we can do like the workshop. And then I started to do research, and I found out like there's no way for us to do workshop, because I mean, yes, we can find the camera, we can find the film, but I mean, a workshop, developing workshop, it means like doing this in a workshop, not sending this to the laboratory, because there was laboratory back then. Actually, there was two laboratories developing films back then, and then actually, like, yeah, then there was this moment that, okay, how to do workshop without access, without buying chemicals, without, like, we need like these things. And actually, we started to work on this in like this month of preparation for the workshop, and this doing like research. And I started to read uh, photochemical books for the first time in my life, trying to dive into chemistry and just understand.
In Spanish.
And in Spanish, yeah, and that was like, it was only the third month me speaking Spanish, so because I found there is a book, and trying to figure out like how to mix it, and then try to understand how it works. If I can't buy, try reading also legal regulation, how to buy chemicals, and if I can't buy these, how I can substitute this with different things, and this, and that was also like the moment when they said, okay, like, we can't, like, certain chemicals we can't buy. So we started to do this experimenting with uh, so-called non-toxic developers, but usually like this caffeinol and other things. But usually, like, for caffeinol, you need like one of the essential things is vitamin C. And vitamin C back then you can't buy in the powder. You could buy only this things, in the pharmacy. This um,
Tablets.
yeah, like this, make this sparkling water. Only this thing, and like had the flavor, and I wasn't sure if it works or not. So actually, like, yeah, there's no vitamin C in for caffeinol, and that was the moment I start to read where vitamin C. I remember from my childhood, eat this or eat that. There is a lot of vitamin C, and then it's okay. The rose hip has vitamin C. This has vitamin C, and then how to substitute vitamin C for caffeinol. In a, like, you just go in the shop and buy it. Like, and I remember like it was I don't know, what was the season, or I don't know, but I remember like passing by in Palermo Viejo, and it was like the lady selling the rose hip, and I saw like the price, and it was extremely cheap. And I said, I mean, I can buy just bucket of this, and just make a tea out of that to extract vitamin C from this. And actually, like, all these things actually started to think about how to do. And actually, like, the Labodoble was in the end not only just the logo and the name, but actually in this preparation we actually came to the conclusion, which we never happened to us here, that at one point you can have this limitation, like, and you can't don't have access to certain things, and then actually it's up to you how to do this. And that was actually a very important moment that we started to investigate this, like, technically, and also investigate this like ideologically, like what does it mean? Because it was the first time when I raised the question, why it's like that, and why the recipe is like that, who defined the rules for this, and I start to think about, like, that certain hegemony of the Kodak Corporation, and the other things. And
So geopolitics, because the
yes,
world was, is, and will be divided, and the conditions really change.
and actually, like, I think this limitation, and that starting doing this thing, actually, like, in the end we prepared the workshop. We did the workshop, and the workshop was not only developing the film but also building a tank. So we built the tank on the workshop. So actually, in the end, like, I remember, like, like a week or 2 weeks before the workshop, we're just thinking that, okay, we're doing workshop for the people here who don't have access. They can't buy Lomotang, they can't buy this. Then, so actually, the workshop should be about not just hands-on of film development, but hands-on of be prepared to build your lab, like, out of things you can find in the shop. So actually, we started with the building the tank, and explaining different methods how to make a tank. I mean, like, okay, in the bucket style, but if you want to have the more regular image. So it's like building the tanks and mixing the chemicals from what is available, and hacking the chemicals from what is available. Because I remember I found a shop which been selling because we did color and the black and white, because they had the lab in Buenos Aires back then which developed Super 8 black and white, but no color. And I found a company which sold the chemistry for mini labs. So they sold like these huge barrels for processors and so on, and it was quite expensive. And then actually through diving into this photochemistry, I think I finally understood how it works. And I said, I don't need to buy all the set. I just need color developer. I don't need like the other things, and I can mix. I remember like the most expensive part was bleach. It was like I think it was double price than the color developer. And I read like what bleach is doing in the color process, and I said, okay, then I can mix it. I can mix it from something uh, different that what is inside this barrel, but just looking like chemical books, and then and also diving in. What's the name of this book which I read in Spanish? Alejandro, the author was Alejandro Cortes, or because for a long time that for me was the name, like kind of the godfather who actually kicked me to do this photochemical research. And actually, like, yeah, and then the workshop was about this, that, okay, guys, if you want to color, so you don't need to buy the kit. You just go to this company, you buy this barrel, and like 10 people, and you will
share
use
it.
this, you share it, and it will last you like for 2 years. And the rest you can buy like and I don't know, in drugstore, this thing you can buy in, I don't know, thing for gardening, and so and so on. And it's actually like we did it in this way. So actually, in the end, we did black and white reversal process. We did E6, but E6 was a hacked process where we used only original Kodak color developer, and the rest was actually just this kind of messy experimenting. And in the end, it worked. And we built a tank. I remember like the first 2 days we've been drilling the pipes. I just building the tank is like the system how to develop 15 meters of.
I think it was at minimum for 2 liters of chemistry.
It was big, yes, but I
Very big,
mean,
like 1 meter long and
yeah, it was.
maybe 20 centimeters width, and it was very heavy when filled with the chemistry. So you had to roll it on table or
On the floor, yeah,
on
then just
floor,
like.
and
But like I remember, like you need two people to do this. We just like rolling on the
yeah, when
floor.
pouring out the water, that was also very tricky, and it took a lot of time. So also the processing, which is so attached to the instruments that you have, was very different from what we know. And I think we were also like one step uh, before our students. That it was really like we were learning, and they were learning with us. With
Yeah,
just
because actually
little.
this way of working, we learned. Let's say, yeah, we learned that maybe a week or 2 weeks before the workshop. That how to do that without, just okay, you just call the shop, you order chemicals, you bring Lomo tank, or you buy online, and then, but I mean, like this way, like doing just on the ground without like any construction. You build the construction.
Yeah, I think it was really like a moment of deconstruction and reconstruction, and it, I think it was quite crucial for us, this like meeting with those conditions and possibilities. And as you said, that it also became ideological because Georgi was studying the chemistry books, and I was writing a manifesto for Labodoble because we took it really seriously that we had to build an entity. So we wanted to have some like proclamation, and at that time also it's important to stress that we didn't know about the artist lab scene. We were really like very solitary, and we found out just after returning to Europe, and it was also by coincidence, just yeah, just touring with the Argentinian friends, because we then invited them to Europe and made a little tour, and then we happened to be in Berlin, and I somehow found out that there is this Labor Berlin, and we just went there, and it was our yeah, that was the moment when we discovered all this wide net with such a long history.
Amazing story to hear this part. How you take so much massive steps from the limitation and creating and studying all those things. Because one of the label, or one of the when I think of you, I actually cannot avoid this connection to ecological. I don't maybe because the symposium you joined or the work you were doing, and then now I know it's actually starting from the story. Would you like to share? Because now we are recording this interview in June, so we are actually approaching to summer solstice soon. So you actually had a film that is called Heliotripy. I don't know if I pronounce it right. And then yeah, and then I actually was very lucky to watch this film in the cinema. So would you like to share about how did this film start? Because it is also really related to the plants, and even you use the plants for the developing process. And then would you like to share that work?
Actually, I would say that in Buenos Aires, we deconstructed some kind of layer. And the deconstruction continues also in this, let's say, ecological approach, because you go towards some raw sources. And I think, I don't know if it has something to do with the like Czech context, but I think that it happens quite a lot that people are working on the same thing as other people in around the world, but you are not aware about the other, or you become aware much later. And we actually started with this plant processing around 2013 and 14, like pretty same time as we were in Buenos Aires, or as we returned. And I think we were researching into some forums for photographers, because this like step to like remediate some procedures from still photography onto motion picture, it's quite common, and we know that it works. So we were looking at some experiences that other people did with some plants, and like this we found out about one specific plant that it's called rustifina, and it's also the name of the very first film that we developed with plants. And it was also connected to a wider project of one Czech director that invited us to join a project about the possible futures of photochemical film. And if we imagine that the film industry is over, which was the case, and if there are some possibilities to work with film, and so we wanted to make some kind of message for the future. So we decided to develop film in plant developer, but also to somehow record the recipe, or to somehow encrypt the procedure on the film strip itself. So that was Rustifina, and we were still thinking in this deterministic way that there is a plant that is efficient, it's functional, and we will use it in that way. We will take advantage of its properties. And over the course of several years that separate Rustifina from Heliotropy, we somehow abandon this efficiency focused paradigm, and we were thinking that all the plants can develop. That's the basis, the very first raw base of all chemistry, are the things that are around us. So it was Georgi who came with the idea around the solstice last year, and he proposed to make a test, an experiment about not selecting one concrete species, but to take it all and to somehow test this hypothesis about plant processing. And what would be the variable would be the time and, let's say, the efficiency of the developer. And it was quite, I think maybe it's very conceptual film, as Rustifina, but I think even more, because there is this plant part, the juices of plant, but there is also the light, and there is also this very special time of solstice that the light is at its maximum. So it was also 1 to 2 day project, very quick, on some concrete spot, and then it resulted in something, and this something it's heliotropy.
Yeah, I think that because heliotropy is pretty a lot. It's connected with this film with Rustifina, which we did in 2014, and one of the reasons was last year I said, Alex, look, let's have it's 9 years since we did Rustifina, so let's have an anniversary. Alex said, usually anniversary it's 10 years, 15 years. I said, like, well, but let's do 9 years anniversary, because like 9 is a bigger number, no, because next number is again 1 and 0. So it's 9 years, so it's a good moment for this. And with the Rustifina, it was like, it was because it's like really connected with Argentina, with our experience, because like I remember back then when I've been searching for the looking like some people who doing like plant developers was Dagi in Berlin, and like who else I found? I think Ricardo Leite was also I found him online, and in many cases, like, and also some photographic forums, people had like recipes, and in many cases it was like this situation: you take I don't know, mint tea, put vitamin C, took this, put vitamin C, put like any plant and vitamin C. But vitamin C was present in every developer, and vitamin C I couldn't buy there, you know. So actually, that was the moment I started to think: is it possible to do a developer without vitamin C? And like first was like very practical thing, and then actually I did like some test with the petals of some flowers, and then I tried to read because I started to read photochemistry, photochemical books and chemical books, and try to actually understand how actually this works, why plant, and then this is actually plant can develop, and some of them weak develop, some of them strong developers, and then this Rustifil, this sumac tree, worked as a quite strong developer without vitamin C, and actually film in the end was, there was an image in the end, happily, because like the thing was like we filmed everything in a camera, we edited everything in camera, did double exposure in camera. So it was actually, it was 2 hours of shooting in that spot around this tree and just walking around, and then back home while the leaves were soaking, Alex did some second or a couple layers of animation on this, and then I think the next day we just drop it into this liquid and develop this. And then actually, like after that moment, I started thinking about also like how to understand if the plant is a developer or not. You know, like with what species can develop. Like, and the thing was that the sumac tree was the strongest one. Uh, we because of this film, because of organic developer, we were invited to doing like the workshops, and mostly like the workshops like come and develop film with a sumac tree, you know, like something like that, and just explain how to do this. And one of these workshops we did in Napoli. We were invited by Andrea Sagiomo, and because we met Andrea in Nantes, and Andrea saw this film in Nantes 2006, and so like it's this tree, we have a lot of them in Napoli, it grows everywhere, so actually like really perfect. And then he showed me like the color photo, because film is black and white, so he showed me color photos, said like, is it this tree? I said like, look like that. Like, it's everywhere. You have to one day you have to come and do workshop. And then one day it's happened, so we went to Napoli to make this workshop on Rustifina or Sumac Tree developer. I remember like driving from Andrea picked up us at the airport, driving to his place in the city, and there was like everywhere the trees of
Yeah, but one detail that it was very hot the weather, and it was very smelly the
Ye-
city, and it was like okay, so it's really unpleasant, all this odor around.
yeah, and the thing was actually then I checked the plant. The plant has like different really strange smell.
Yeah, actually there was that smell, but
Yeah, and it was a smell of this, and I don't remember this. I said, okay, maybe different weather, because it's much hot there, so it's just
or it's contaminated the city.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. So and then actually thing I said we were there I think for 2 weeks, no, and like at the end of the first week we had this workshop, and like a couple days before the workshop we were just preparing like what we need, like this and this and this. We'll collect the leaves, and I said, okay, maybe like with Andrea said sitting in his garden, said like maybe let's do the test, let's just pick like this tree and just develop and see actually also just because I like one of the things was I said it's much more hotter in Napoli. I would think like we can't hold 20 degree, so maybe it's gonna be hot to developers. So just do the test like what for the if it's gonna be like 25 degree or 30 degree for developer. I don't know. So it's okay, we'll do the test. We grab this, soak it overnight. Next day we start to develop and there was nothing. Absolutely nothing. It didn't work. And then actually I said like what? Then we went to the problem like in Napoli there are not so many parks. There are a lot of private parks, but like and there was like one park or like was a garden next to his house, and there was like the huge tree. And then I went to this to walk by, but I think yeah because first Andrea brought the leaves, yes, and then the next day when it didn't work, we went to this garden to look at that, and then I noticed one thing that this tree had very different flowers, and the leaves it looked exactly the same, and the leaf itself this I didn't notice later when I just compared with the photo of sumac tree which I had. I noticed that the leaves had like very different uh, edges, so just those two tiny details,
and
and
the smell.
and they had a smell, and these two tiny details which was difference between the sumac tree here and this tree there, and then I found out that it's absolutely different tree which looks exactly the same, but I mean, like you can't distinguish this, and very different tree, very different species from for a very different family, and this would never work.
Island.
It was called Ailante. Yes, it wasn't a rustic. It was Ailante, and then actually I said, Andrea, look, I mean, this doesn't work. It's not the same tree. And then we doing trying to find where we can find this rustifina, and then we found okay in Sicily. Well, Sicily is away, quite far away from us, and then we said that but the workshop should happen. Actually, quite similar situation like in Buenos Aires, and then we just sitting like what to do, and then I've been sitting online reading about like what actually because I knew after like doing the first film, I found out actually what develops in a sumac tree, and then try to find what other plants have this. It was a gallic acid was inside, and what other species. And then actually, I remember we found there was a farm 50 kilometers away from Napoli, and they've been growing this spices. Sorry, so there was, and they had like this spices which actually close relative to sumac tree. So I thought maybe it would work, but it was like way. It was really hot, and then actually at one moment I said, look, I mean, in 2 days we have a workshop, or like was almost in one day. Maybe we'll do this thing. We'll just do the workshop about just exploring the other plants. So we,
Searching for.
yes, so we'll just go to the garden or we'll go to the park and we'll try to grab as much as possible different species, and then we just extract the uh, developer from this, and then next day we'll develop it and we'll see what works. We'll do the test and see what works. So actually went to the garden and I said like this at the beginning, like to the kids, like, well, the idea was workshop was about this, but we don't know what will work. So it's about experiments in the true sense. So maybe in the end we won't develop the film, but we'll find out that that definitely those plans which we grabbed don't work as a developer, and then maybe yeah. So we actually went to this park and we collected around like 11 different plants separately, and like the people from the workshop. Then we actually came back to the lab, we soaked it overnight. We just talked about this, and the next day we met and we started doing the tests. And it was like, I remember it was like fig tree, there was a banana tree, there was pitosforo, that my favorite. It has very beautiful smell. Pitosforo. There was I don't know the English name, but in Italy they call this cicuta. It's like, and like many other some palm was like everything what we found. And we actually started doing the test, and during doing the test we actually found out that out of the 11 plants which we collected, uh, 7 plants worked. Actually, at least on the test they darkened the film, and from the rest, kind of like the 4 plants which stayed, the only 1 plant didn't work at all, and 3 others they were just too slow. Right, from the test, my guess was that developing time can be like an hour, and that's it. Like, well, it's too long for us. We will stick with developer, which is just under half an hour, like 15 minutes to half an hour. So actually, and it was like the 7 plants out of 11. I was like, wow, that's like so magic in a way. And then actually after the test, finally we developed films, and it looked really brilliant. And there was a guy who said that the fig tree was a really great developer. And there was a guy who said like, well, my garden, I have a lot of fig trees, and fig trees like has really huge leaves, and you just need to grab a couple of them, instead of the tiny. And he's like, it's perfect for me, and then actually like I've been started to think about like, yeah, that actually it's about like the any plant, and some of them in some places you can't find certain species, so maybe in that place you can find. And this, I mean, a very naive, non rigorous approach that, like I said, like if the 7 plants out of 11 develop, so there's kind of like the 60-70% probability that the plant can be developer, and so like doing like these catalogs of the plants, it was like interesting. But for heliotrope, it happened this thing that we say that if it's anniversary, so we don't do that anymore. That we don't do the catalog of the plants. We just there is 60% probability that it will work, that the film will work, which is pretty big probability, 60%. So let's just go, just shoot it, and just grab everything what is there, what is going to be shoot it in the film. So just grab this in the bag, and they will make a developer, and our chance is 60%. It's pretty high. That something will work inside this, and the same actually with heliotropy, we did it very same way or similar way like with the Rustifina. We said we just do it like 1 day shooting. Actually, we then did like the second day we just shoot some couple shows, but also like we said, it is going to be like this one gesture. You just take a camera with a camera.
Yeah, there were slight differences because for Rustifina we did have some little score. It was just on a very little piece of paper.
Yeah, the score was pretty simple.
Very simple.
It will say that around 15 meters we have to do a lot of flickers, because that's the moment we will cut in the tank, and if you do a lot of flickers, when you cut the negative, it won't be visible. So that was the score. I remember.
But for heliotropy, there was no score.
Yes,
and,
no score.
we just introduced another variable that was the second camera, and that we were
Yes.
exchanging the reels for another exposure layer, and then we were also exchanging the cameras because we have 2 bit different Bolex cameras. And yeah, I think it was really focused on the plans and on the instruments that we had, so it's like very material experience. And also one camera had some defect that we didn't know about it, so we had to fix it later in a dark room. but yes, it was very concentrated moment when we were also trying to make our smaller daughter to sleep, and while she was sleeping we were shooting, and of course it's only like 2 times 30 meters, but it's a lot of material for us, because I remember that Erwin was asking if we couldn't make a bit longer film, because Rustifina it's like 2 minutes
Just 30 meters.
45 seconds and it's 30 meters. So we said, okay,
I remember
let's make Erwin happy. We will make like 5 minutes.
twice 30 meters. Yes, that was also. But yeah, that was the difference, because we said that we take 2 cameras, 2 spools in a cameras, and like one for Alex, one for me, and we just shoot simultaneously. And like you do whatever you do want, I do whatever I want, just like improvising with the camera as a instrument, and didn't discuss this. Then one moment we said we just exchange the cameras, because I mean, like we're doing like the like the several exposures there, also editing in the camera, also doing the black uh, points in the film, but like there was not marked, so where is the black, where is not black, but the black uh, part was just left just for the second person that maybe will get into this. So actually, like yeah, then we finished and changed the cameras. Then one moment we said maybe we will change the films in the cameras, because two cameras were two bullets, but like one was from the 50s, another one from 70s, which also gives you a different way of working with this. And so I said maybe we'll do also like this thing, and also I'll change the cameras again. So actually, like changing changing every step. And so actually was filmed like that. And the only thing I remember that we yeah, the only rule was we say that we'll keep 3 meters at the beginning unexposed of every roll, and the same at the end. We'll keep an eye, so we'll have 5 meters at the end, so we can later decide where to shoot the credits. Like so on this stock when we are ready. So that was the only rule, and then when we just got this, and before developing, I remember sitting in a lab, and the plant's been soaking in the liquid, and then actually I remember like being thinking like, okay, but now we have two cameras or two reels. Which gonna be the first? Which is gonna be the second? So where to put like the opening credits, like the title of the film, and where to put the final credit? How to decide which one is which? And then actually been like, yeah. Then I remember like opening the dark room, just checking the spool, and I found out that the second spool had a longer end. It was not like the 5 meters, but my guess was that they were like the 10 meters or something like that. And I say, okay, that's longer, so that definitely is going to be second spool, because the end credit is like longer than the opening credit. So there was like decision. So actually, okay, then Alex shooted the credits on a, like draw it and shoot the credits, like the first spool opening credit, the second spool the end credit, and then yeah, there was like that was the only editing decision at that moment, to define which one is the first, which one is the second. But then there was this problem with the developer.
Yeah, actually, it was like almost exactly a year ago. It was already about 30 degrees, and the developer that was so unsure, like very adventurous object, it got spoiled a bit. So
Yeah, it
I think
oxidized very fast.
it oxidized very fast. So you added some sulfuric acid.
No sulfuric acid.
No.
No, the thing, because like yeah, when we check the developer before, let's say, look, now we drop the film or we do the test of developer if it works at all. Because I mean, yes, 70% probability. So we took a strip of the film, and I did a test on this developer, because plants, like unless like the raw chemicals, they not very unstable, that oxidize pretty fast with the air. So whenever you put like the make it active, so they start to oxidize, and the thing that you want to use their power before they die, before they oxidize the power. And I remember like I did the test, and like the first test, the second test, and I noticed like the first test didn't work because I guess like to work. Then the second test, I started counting more precisely to just with a strip of film. And then I noticed that it's developing, but then at one moment it stops and doesn't develop. So it's okay, it just dies with the air. And then I said, okay, I just put a pinch of the sodium sulfide, which actually oxygen scavenger, which usually used normally in developers. I just said I just put this just to protect, so that to be sure that there's no air in this. And then I did this, and then did the third test, and it started get darkening. And I said, okay, so it works. Now I have to guess what is the time. And based on the darkening, I said like minimum time is a 7 minute, maximum time is 11 minutes. What we will pick, something in the middle. And I said maybe let's pick something in the middle. And Alex was because the first, I think because first I said, why did you pick this 10 minutes development time?
I don't know. I thought
To be
the
safe.
longer, better.
I said like do the 10 because like my vision was like,
Yeah, I thought it would be weak, and so maybe it needs some like push
yeah.
in
So
time. But
when we took this negative out of the after development, I noticed that it's overdeveloped. This thing, but I mean that's what we have, you know. That's the film. It's overdeveloped. It's like then we actually started noticing there was a problem with the camera. But I mean that's the thing, you
and it was
know.
also greenish because of some
Yeah, it was very green.
chlorophyll.
Yes, from the plant. It was very green from the plant, which you get into the negative. And then it's, I mean, like it is here, and it was already maybe 24th of June, you know, and there was 2 days after solstice, and either we have to wait next year, you know, or what, because so they okay, that's our film, so we have to do something with this. And
I just have a last couple questions. I love all your sharing. It's amazing because you are such a, often you were in a very limited situation or new situation that you had to find a solution. And then through this process of finding a solution, what works, you have a lot of new questions, and that keeps bring you to different places. And no matter what the result is, and you just really embrace all the, let's say, accident or imperfect. And I love all the stories you share with there's a time limit that you had to give a certain kind of workshop, but you also have a lot of flexibility to adapt to the new challenge, and I love that so much. Because we have a little time limitations here, so I thought maybe I will just focus on the last question. Which would you like to share about this performance that you did, and then maybe you will do it again soon? It's called "There Must Be Some Way Out of Here." And that was because I think one of the thing I remember you shared about this performance in Nantes last year. You were saying the duration of this performance was 30 minutes because that was exactly the time your kids have a nap or sleep. So I love that story so much, and all those let's say device you were using or optics you were using for performance was very quiet because your kids were sleeping. And I thought that was a amazing example of how artists parents and then combined with the family life. So would you like to tell a little bit about this work, the performance that you did in Nantes? Maybe you will do it again soon in Paris, right? Yeah.
Yeah, actually, it was. Yeah, I would say first that when we are waiting for our first daughter to be born, we were really persuaded that the kids won't make any obstacles to our work or the way that we live, and we were just thinking that we will integrate them in what we are living now, and then they will just grow into our lives, and nothing will change. That was not the case, because
first of all, you stopped to go to the dark room when
yeah,
you were
yeah.
pregnant.
Because when I was pregnant, I couldn't go to the dark room because actually we are still using, let's say, what's now branded as toxic chemistry, as well as some more ecologically conscious solutions. And yeah, we try to be conscious about both ways, but of course our darkroom is full of raw chemistry, and we use it when we want to. And so while being pregnant or breastfeeding, I was skipping this wet part. And also it was, I think the first daughter, she was like 3 months old, no, or 2 months old when we were preparing this. And I was, most of the time I was with her lying in the bed and breastfeeding, and I was trying to contribute somehow. So that was how the voiceover uh, originated, because there was no intention to make a performance with voiceover, but I was thinking about those images that we wanted to use, and about the concept of light and darkness, and also its cultural burden and signification of those notions. And Georgi, he went with Naira in this baby carrier out for a walk, and that was my only break during the day. So he was taking her out, and he was trying to make those slides.
Yeah, because it was like very connected with this moment that was like an interesting experience. Like the first 3 months, it's the first time in our life when life is kind of focused, or everything is happening around that person, and they define a lot. And then actually after those 3 months, we were like very fully dedicated to this. And then we said, actually, I had this discussion that, okay, it's we know how to do this. Now we have to do something, like kind of not like back to life, but back to all good old, not good old time, but back to what we did before. So we have to do something. And then actually that was the moment when first thing was we started to think about performance, and we couldn't use 60mm projectors because during this, during the breaks, kids were sleeping, and then actually was the idea to think about how to make the projection silent without 60mm projector. And then actually started to like exploring this other options, how to work with the image using like the slides, using the slide motors, silent motors for shuttering and sensor. And also the thing when I was out with our first daughter, like walking in the forest, she'd been sleeping, so I couldn't woke her up by making bollocks, and that was also like this moment that I started taking slides. And with the slides, it's easy, you just make it, and you're doing this like once in 10 minutes, or once in a half an hour. And actually like was also this mode how to convert this photographic camera, because we said, okay, we'll do this, we'll use slide project, we'll use shutters, we'll use this silent mechanism, because the only way when we can rehearse, she's been sleeping and we can't make noise. But also like we need the source, we need something to project, what we will load into this, and grabbing some old things, or
I think maybe it was also connected with the I made my graduate performance. I was using Kodak slide projectors, and I think me personally, I was really thrilled with this notorious theme of motion picture, the struggle between stillness and movement, and also with the like Kodak carousels. I was playing with this. Like I have a still image, and I have some alternation that could be named motion if we really want to. And those little slide projectors that we use in Way Out of Here, they are very rudimentary in comparison to those Kodak apparatuses. And I think there was also some kind of fascination or inspiration that we wanted just to use some source of light and shutters and
yeah, because also like
lenses.
the thing that those projectors also, they were like very cheap, and I don't wanted to destroy Kodak carousel projector, which is quite expensive. So I like said, okay, gonna experimenting with this cheap East German projectors, and they're actually very simple. It's just like, yeah, just a source of light, condenser, and the place where you put the frame with the slide, and the lens for focusing this. And then actually they were quite interesting that you could remove everything, and then you have the space where you could load any transparency or to find a way how to fit the film into this. And then actually, yeah, that was actually starting moment that just building this device. And again, like it was not like the concept, but this thing that the concept, yeah, that was the concept. The concept was like to make it as silent as possible so we can rehearse at home,
To make it move.
to make it move, yeah, because you can't leave home, like, and go to the lab and work. So actually, you have to be like at home, and so just to make it move, create this emotion, and just building this. And then when we built, I start, okay, we have the thing, then I shoot some test slides for this while working with Naira, and then start doing the tests like with the images, how it works. And then actually Alex had this text, and then actually the thing actually start to the idea or the concepts actually started appear from this, dealing with this thing, working with this tool, even like building this tool for the first time in my life when I actually tried to build something like that much complex, like that, because I said, okay, we have the ability to control the intensity of the light, the speed of the shutter, then what other motion? Okay, we can have to put the lens which rotate, and we also want to control the motion of it. And then actually this doesn't work, this work, and then actually when we built this and start to playing with this, okay, that's the tool. Now that's the instrument. Now let's explore what it can do, And through this exploration, actually, the whole performance appeared, and also somehow while been rehearsing with the image, like was like, yeah, was the sleep. But it was interesting when she was sleeping at home, it was always like around 30, 35, maximum 40 minutes. And like every 4, so actually we had the flat time for rehearsing. But when we were outside, she'd been sleeping like 2 hours. I remember it was just a bit shooting. It was interesting. Uh, so actually, like, yeah, there was somehow defined time, for rehearsal. And also, like, in the end, if you're doing the piece, you have to fit in this gap, like, because if you want to see it like in entire length, that's the only way how to do this. And so actually, this was thing like which somehow like defined the time. And also like the sound was, because previously when we did the sound and performance was, we did quite loud things, or there was a lot of working with loudness. But here also actually we started with something very gentle, in the sound, because you also can't rehearse. I mean, there's no noise from projectors, but then but you do the sound, you also don't want to wake up your baby. And I remember like, and then actually after that, when we had the first performance, I remember like that was the moment when I noticed also like the images, because we introduced like the first time performing, we introduced as a third author of the performance our daughter. Because actually the images, what was interesting, all of them were shoot it with the photographic camera, like looking up, and that was actually when we walked with the stroller. That was this forest. That was her point of view. Because I was all the time walking the stroller, saying, "Yeah, she looked just. She sits on the branches. And other things. And that's interesting point of view." And this I noticed actually after that, during the really performing this, and for the audience first time, I noticed that actually during the performance, that yeah, that's the point of view of Nara laying, in the stroller, looking like in the forest. And it's actually like that's a
Maybe also another theme was articulation, like articulation in light, and then also when our friend agreed to read uh, the text for us, and he's a performer and ballet dancer, and he has this very nice accent when talking English, and really liked his way to read it. And then Georgi said, "Hey, let's try to read just first syllable."
syllabus.
Syllable. Yeah, like the first
2 letters.
two, and it acquired some kind of cadency, and it was like okay, that's when the sound is born, or the articulation is about to come. And I think it's also the same relation with the stillness and movement. That there is some stillness and some flow, and it's like a bit like the speech. And yeah, now we are experiencing, maybe I think it's while touring more in like francophone zone, that we were confronted with this um, like content that could be understood otherwise than we thought about it. And that's very interesting, because it's quite an old performance, because we started to do it 2018, and it was first performed in 2018 in Vienna in film club, and then, but it keeps changing. I don't mean like that every performance is different, but also like that the setup is changing, and also our maybe understanding of what we have done, because there was not an idea that was fixed in the beginning, but it just somehow grow up.
Is there anything beyond ask that you would still like to add?
I think we talked a lot.
Yes.
I wish we could talk for days. And it has been super inspiring, and then I feel a lot of love in your process, and I really love your attitude and the attitude of finding out things and trying things within certain condition, and that's very inspiring.